Welcome to Tony at 12. I'm Tony LeBlanc, and today I'm in conversation with Nighat Qureishi, Deputy of the Corporation of the City of London. We're going to talk about her recent re-election and the tasks ahead for the next 4 years. Good to see you.
Thank you very much, Tony. Thank you for having me again today.
Absolute pleasure. Now, tell us about the election for a start.
Well, as we spoke last, about 2 years back, maybe,
Yep.
I've now had the opportunity to become re-elected as the Common Councillor for the Billingsgate Ward, City of London Corporation. Um, Fun fact, there are 25 wards. Actually, this time round, for some reason, and maybe we may be able to touch upon it, 14 out of the 25 wards actually were not contested. And unfortunately, that means that we had about 45% of the 100 common councillors being re-elected, but being uncontested. And my ward, Billingsgate, was actually heavily contested. And we had six candidates, with myself being included for re-election, and the for two spots. And I won with a landslide. So just to let you know that in some parts of the City of London, democracy is flourishing, and in other parts, perhaps not so much.
Is it a lack of democracy or a lack of interest? Is that part of the problem?
I'm not sure, perhaps there is a perception that
Yeah.
there isn't very much going on in the City of London Corporation, so why lend my time to it?
Mm.
But the thing again is that one of the things that I've recognized being re-elected is that the word has to get out a bit more. The City of London's engagement officer for the campaign to speak for the city is a phenomenal success, and that was made very clear when people did turn up for the briefings, for the presentations, to meet officers and things like that. And unfortunately, they all disappeared when the time came to stand for election. So yeah, we will do our best to make the word get out a bit more.
Now, you're wearing a special insignia.
Yes, I did. And for today's podcast, I thought I'd just touch upon another new role that's been inferred upon me. Each of the wards or the constituencies have an associated ward club. And the ward club in my area, Billingsgate Ward Club, actually celebrates its 100th year in 2028. But this year, they've inferred upon me the role of junior warden, hence this particular wonderful insignia. And that means that I'm in procession to become the chair or the master of the ward club in 2 years' time. So I'm undergoing an apprenticeship at the
Hmm.
moment
Hmm.
for the ward club. Thank
That
you.
sounds
Yep.
really good. What is its actual function, the
It's actually to keep hold of the ties between the City of London Corporation and the ward. The
Hmm.
primarily role is to help communications between the two bodies. So again, one of the very important roles is what the Lord Mayor is up to and whether there are any specific, I think more or less what the Lord Mayor wants to do and wants to gain support on, especially in the charitable sector. So this is a different thing to the livery.
Yeah.
This has got nothing to do with the liveries, but the ward clubs, it's more of a social element to support the local people, workers, residents in the area to have a bit more of a social gathering.
Now, you said in the, when we were sort of swapping notes with one another, that Billingsgate is a small ward. How many electors are there roughly?
So there is an algorithm that's based on it, and maybe there is a better description on the City of London Gov website.
Hmm.
But the current role is that if you have a large corporation, which is the one of the companies that I work for, there is a 5-to-1 ratio or an 8-to-1 ratio. So overall, and if you're a resident, it's obviously a 1-to-1
Yeah.
voting element. And if you are a worker, which I am, you do get a vote if you're on the voters list. And I also am aware that as a worker, we are the only people in the UK that we have two votes,
Yeah.
that we can actually vote in the square mile and in our local,
Yeah,
authority board. So
yeah.
Billingsgate had about 500 registered voters on its electoral roll.
So, bearing in mind the ratios that apply for some of the larger businesses, is it very difficult to work out come the day of the election when they do the count how it's all assimilated or
Well, the thing is that they work on the basis of the number of registered voters.
yeah,
So we have an electoral voter register list, which says we have 500 or
yeah.
approximately thereabouts. And so for my ward, we had a 42% turnout, which is a very high turnout compared to some of the other wards, which were contested, where their voter turnout was, say, 6%.
Mm, that's incredible. Well done.
Thank
And
you very
is the
much.
voting electronic or good old paper and pen?
Well, you would expect from a thousand-year-old establishment to keep it going in the old paper and pen style, and that's why we love and uphold democracy in the square mile. So it
And
is.
I would go straight stage further and say it should really be a quill rather than pen.
There is. I'm sure you're aware that when the Lord Mayors swap over at the silent ceremony in November,
Yeah.
the quill does come out for the ceremonial
Okay.
signatures. It does indeed.
Good. Well, it's good to know it's still around from that point of view. You seem to get an awful lot of things into each day, Nighat, in terms of how many hours a day you've got your full-time job, you've got all of
Mm.
your City of London commitments. How do you do it?
Because I'm a nutcase. There's no other way to say it.
A
I keep
workaholic.
people a workaholic, and people keep telling me, if you want something to get done, ask a busy person and things like that. But when we last spoke, I still hold very dearly the fact that I do feel I'm a Londoner. I
Yeah.
want to get London up there and keep it flourishing, and I'm passionate about the youth. And the two are in tandem, and I haven't lost the energy to be representative of that voice. So I think that part of the reason why I keep driving forward. Otherwise, why stand for re-election, and why keep, pushing in this particular sphere? We do need more people to come forward to make sure the change is a better one, and not just for the sake for a change. And I also know that I need to be visible, not invisible, so that I can
Mm.
represent some minority or underrepresented voices. And I take that very passionately. So that's why I keep driving myself forward in this sphere. And I think also I'm doing a good job. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been re-elected.
Yeah,
So that
sure, of
gives
course.
me
Yeah.
some kind of validation that, what I've been up to seems to be resonating with the people I represent.
So the report was good. A's on everyone.
Absolutely, Tony. You would hope so. Yeah.
I would hope so. Just out of interest, with the City of London, how does it get its funding? Is it mainly business rates and things like that?
So, as you know, the local authorities normally use handouts from central government,
Mm,
and the City of London Corporation is in a unique position because it does have endowments and it does use the financial centre of the world, London, having its business rates and things like that. So, there is definitely a separate income stream, which is definitely unique to the City of London Corporation, and that supports and allows it to continue to do a myriad of things
yeah.
which, other local authorities can't do. And that is the beauty of why the City of London exists still today.
And you're not political as such, are you? You're not representing a party.
No, and at the moment with the current politics, I'm glad I'm not. So,
Yeah, quite.
so,
But
so
the point I was going to make is that it works on consensus government.
it does, and we have people who have been voted in under Labour,
Yeah.
and majority of people are known as independents. And I gave you a false statement last time where I said, national government policies are not interpreted here in the City of London.
Mm,
Well, I'd like to correct that. National government policies very much are interpreted in the City of London Corporation, and the corporation works very, very closely with the Foreign Office and Department of Trade and Industry, youth and communities, faith and communities, and therefore there's definitely a dovetail between the two. However, because being in an independent, and you can then have dialogue and discussions with whoever's in government, whether it's Labour, Conservative, or whoever it is, that actually supports the way that this corporation functions.
And you've all got one major thing to go forward with: your love for the city and the success of the city.
Absolutely. We're here as ambassadors for the City of London. We want
Yeah,
to make sure that it contains businesses which also see the benefit of being in London and not being in, say, Islington or something like that. And they do see the value of it. And
yeah,
we also see that the City of London Corporation holds dearly as a global mega centre, financial centre, not only for finance, but now you wouldn't believe it, for tech. And tech has also, been spearheaded in the city square mile.
and it's big in law as well.
Definitely, that doesn't go away. We, as you know, the Old Bailey and Central Criminal Courts of Justice, all of that comes under the realm of City of London
Yeah,
Corporation. And in the old days, legislation or the policy was that you could only become an alderman if you were a lawyer.
yeah.
And then that changed, I think, not too recently, where that was disbanded. But you're absolutely correct. Law is very firm and square in this corporation.
Very much so. Can we talk about some of your positions then within the corporation?
Sure.
First of all, the City Bridge Foundation. You're chair of the funding committee. Um, how does that work? Is this where you share costs with the London Assembly?
Not at all. It's a separate charity which has um, been using a drawdown from an endowment fund, which was bequeathed to the London through the City Bridge Estates. And in its modern form, it's called City Bridge Foundation. It went through a rebranding, and I'm the chair of the funding committee, which allocates approximately about 30 million to London-based charities annually. And so that has nothing to do with LGA, and it has got nothing to do with the taxpayer. That is completely independently funded through the City Bridge Foundation.
My fault. I thought it was crossing the river.
Well, they did have a monopoly for over 500 years,
This is true.
and that did help build the coffers up, as they
And you can
say.
still bring the sheep over, can you?
We look forward, and it's a public event every year, last Sunday in September.
Right. Okay. People should take that on board. The children's Community and Children's Services Committee. That's obviously providing support for underprivileged people.
Made mainly to look at it does that and also a lot more. So it supports all of the state housing. So we have some state housing in the square mile. It
Hmm.
also supports all the state schools and all of the academic trusts as well. And again, any kind of amenity services that's needed, even in the mental health capacities and things like that.
Yeah. Okay. You're also involved with the Markets Board. What's
Mm.
that all about, Nigat?
So you may have recently seen in the press that Billingsgate Market, which used to be in the east of the city near the Isle of Dogs, and Smithfield's Market, which is the meat traders market in bang next door to St. Bartholomew's Hospital, they were under development plans because their current premises no longer are future-proofed and they're having, issues with space and things
Hmm.
like that. And then that all became apparent that the new plans wouldn't suffice. So the Markets Board is basically a committee which is to support the governance and to support the traders and the corporation finding equitable solutions so that they can move to new premises and have better facilities and things like that. City of London Corporation relinquishes its stakeholder in the fact that it will be the overriding person or corporation responsible for the markets. That's now disbanded, and that goes directly to the traders. So, an individual trader, say I'm a fishmonger who used to be trading at Billingsgate Fish Market in the Isle of Dogs. Well, going forward, I can now take my business anywhere I like. It doesn't need to be at Billingsgate Fish Market. It can just be anywhere, and I can set up my shop anywhere. So we're trying to facilitate that move.
What about Smithfield, the meat market? That's still
Yeah,
in use, is it, at the moment?
that's right. It's still in use, and eventually that will also be part of the new London Museum. So the new London Museum has will overtake that beautiful old structure, which is, I think, a heritage listed structure, and that will also incorporate that as part of its whole remap.
So, what about the other London Museum? Is that,
That's closed at the moment, and that's actually been renovated, and there are building works going on, and all sorts of things at the moment.
yeah, but presumably you can take their exhibits in the new one, can you?
Absolutely, they're all
Yeah,
under storage at the moment,
yeah,
and then they will be transferred across. And there is also ongoing discussions with making sure that there are spaces, accessible spaces for different, underrepresented communities and things like that.
yeah. And do you have any idea when this is all going to take place?
It has still, it has all kicked off,
Yeah.
and there are incremental updates available through the website.
Hmm.
So we know the budget is there. We know that plans are in, all going forward. So we can, look forward to a new London Museum. I won't give you an exact D-Day
No.
date yet, because it's just kicked off, and it would be a bit premature to expect that, oh yeah, the building will be available
Yeah,
in
yeah,
5 years'
yeah,
time.
yeah.
Probably closer to the time we could be a bit more confident that, yeah, we're going to have one next year.
But it's good, isn't it, to keep the building?
I think so, and also to help support the fact that heritage is a really important part of the corporation.
Of
Otherwise, if
course.
we just get rid of everything, then we're
Yeah,
in real trouble.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. The family silver. Um,
that's it.
what about the rest of the planning side and transportation? How are you involved on the transportation bit?
It's interesting. I'm a new member to that committee, and I'm come onto it to make sure that proposals by planning and developers actually keeps an eye out for really public realm spaces. I'm very worried about the fact that we have a lot of skyscrapers going up, and we are expecting a lot of people to come into the city to, the footfall to increase, and we have more people in the square mile, but there's actually nowhere for them to go. And,
Mm.
25 years ago, I used to go and sit in the old Samuel Pepys garden around the back of my building. Well, that's now all concrete. There's not a rose tree to be found, and it looks quite clinical. But there's a feeling that you're sitting in a concrete jungle now. And so, for me, one of my priorities is to make sure, and it's always in the public policy documents, public realm space documents, the London Plan policy documents, that, public realm spaces are given importance so that people who are living, breathing, and working in the square mile do have an opportunity to experience green space.
Interesting though that there's a demand to come back into the city. Is that some of the companies in Canary Wharf as well, or are they?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I
So,
think the thing is, because everything's working towards the net zero issue of
mm,
making sure that your buildings do meet particular targets, and the City of London Corporation is really hot on this, and it's won multiple awards in this area, that the other skyscrapers in Canary Wharf perhaps are not able to retrofit their buildings to meet those carbon emission targets. Perhaps that's one of the reasons.
yeah,
Of course, the attractiveness of the square mile is that the current building proposals are multidimensional. So therefore, if your business, model does need to adapt and change with hybrid model or whatever working, so those office spaces can accommodate that. And as you're aware, in my day job, we're moving to a brand new office build in the spring next year. And alarmingly, the tower has, I think, 40 plus floors, I think.
mm,
And within the tower, it's to accommodate the workers with gym facilities, coffee facilities, a spa, a sauna. all of these additional
Yeah,
amenities
yeah.
within the whole wrapper of being able to say that they do meet carbon emission and net zero targets. So I think that's another attraction of what's going on in the city.
But based on what's happened with Canary Wharf, the
Mm.
transportation side presumably is going to take a lot more strain if they're all coming into the bank and places like that.
I think you're right, but the Elizabeth line and also the new terminals that have been, or new entry exit points, just in that, like I think 50 square meters
Hmm.
between Mansion House and Bank,
Yeah.
has been developed to accommodate that. And they know that this is one of the real overriding reasons for ease of transportation and ease of access, which has just recently, I think last week, a condition was lifted of the temporary ban for black cabs to be able to come into Bank Junction. And that took some time to, get reversed, but it eventually has been done. And so transportation is definitely on on the priority list for the
Most of the
city.
black cabs are electric these days, aren't they?
They are, yeah, they
Yeah,
are.
so I mean the
And
pollution bit doesn't come into it anymore.
that's it, exactly.
Okay, we continue with your involvement with the Gresham City Side Committee.
My very passionate committee. I am a total groupie, Gresham groupie, as they say. I've enjoyed being on that committee very much. Currently deputy chair of the committee, meaning that have an ability to oversight some of the college's works,
Yeah,
and that's to do with academia and things like that. So the Gresham Society still flourishes today. We have an opportunity to provide professors of academia free of cost to be able to present their lectures in their specialized subjects to predominantly Londoners. But because everything is now available online, it's now a global audience. And currently, if you happen to be traveling on a BA long haul flight, you'll also be able to listen to those lectures in the aeroplane 40,000 feet above the city.
but you can actually roll up as a member of the public, is that right? And there's no admission charge as such.
There is no admission charge, no donation required, nothing. The current lectures are held in Bernard's Hall, which is quite close to Holborn Station or Farringdon Station. And it's a wonderful hall, which is really used to be the old school for the Mercers, which is a livery company,
Yeah,
and now has been overtaken as the lecture hall for Gresham.
yeah. And Gresham as an academic institution goes back into the dark ages almost, doesn't it?
It does, and we're very fortunate that we're still able to say that it's still going
Yeah.
because, some of these institutions could get wrapped up, and they could get wrapped up purely because people are not visiting public lectures anymore, where
Mm,
they can get a lot of their information online through their phones and digitally. And these lectures really do support the fact of, academic learning. I was at present at one of the lectures by Sir Chris Whitty on healthcare.
yeah,
And, when you see the opportunity or have the opportunity to see somebody in the real flesh and to learn a bit more about their chosen topic and to know that it's being delivered in a kind of a layman's terms where Joe Public can understand
yeah,
the topic, it's a masterclass, and we're very, very fortunate to have accessibility to things like that.
yeah. And of course, he was the chief medical officer for
Sorry,
COVID, wasn't he? Yeah,
that's right.
yeah,
He still is. He's the chief medical officer
yeah,
for the UK.
yeah, yeah,
He still
yeah,
holds that. Yeah.
yeah. So there we are. That's interesting. Presumably, if you just type Gresham College into your browser,
Yes, of course.
it'll take you to the various lectures that are on
It
offer.
does. Yes, and they're all, wonderful topics. And the lecturers who we choose to deliver those lectures are top of the field, like they are well known and highly regarded in their fields as well.
That's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Now,
And
City,
you may also know that our previous Lord Mayor, Professor Michael Manieli, also used to be a visiting professor at Gresham College.
yep, I did know that one. Uh, Let me see now. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about was the City of London Reserve Forces and the Cadet Association. What is that promoting?
That's because this long association between the reservists and the City of London.
Hmm.
So the obviously via the World War One and Two, there were a lot of personnel who used to be part of the reservists that went to war, and that continues today. The City of London is really proud to have the reservists, and there is a very big push with the current Lord Mayor, Lady Mayoress, who is a current reservist, and there is a push in the city to support companies signing up to be able to advocate for reservists in their companies. So they are signing up to this, and then we also have the youth cadets, which is where I'm also very heavily involved with because of my other hat that I wear as a chair of a scouts group, and that's to support uniformed youth and making sure that there are opportunities for the youth to be able to be involved in various aspects. So this is where I sit on a committee, or I'm a representative, a conduit between the City of London Corporation and the reservists and the cadet forces.
And of course, every time we have the Lord Mayor show each year, we see a lot of military participation, don't we?
We do, and you may have caught the last one where we had an overseas representation of the Bahrainian police force band
Yeah.
from Bahrain that were playing the bagpipes. So that was great. I mean, who would have guessed?
It's
So
great
that's
how
all.
these Scottish traditions have gone across the world.
Who would have guessed? And nice to see that as well. And of course, the military presence is very, very much a connection with our City of London, and we really do make sure that there is a big portion of the element of the City of London Corporation does, keep a nod to that.
Tell us a little bit more about your designation as a deputy, because really I should have introduced you as deputy, shouldn't I?
Yes, Tony, but we'll overlook that on this occasion. It's about being kind of a senior counselor
Yeah.
in your ward. So you're supposed to have a bit more knowledge than the junior councillors, and you'd also be in the old days deputising for the alderman, and you'd be able to help and support the alderman in different variety of things. Today, that's not the case. Today, it's more to do with making sure that the councillors in your ward are appraised, briefed, and understanding of, important issues and being able to help them navigate those important issues as well.
Yeah. It's a great thing to be involved with. So officially you are to be known as deputy. Do you
Yes,
just
of
use
course.
if I wrote to a knight, I'd write Dear Sir John, Dear Deputy Nighat or
Nighat,
Qureshi.
dear Deputy Qureishi.
Yeah. Okay.
It's one of those weird and quirky things about the city,
But that's the great thing about it, isn't it?
Also
It's
Tony,
wonderful.
when you are seated in committees, or when you are in your session of the council meetings, which is held at the Guildhall main hall every month, we have the officers who are basically the civil servants addressing you as deputy.
Yeah.
It's it's one of the main things that does still exist till today.
I shall tell Christine for future reference.
She has a free pass. I don't mind.
All right, she's okay. I'm not.
She's
I'm a chap, but there we are. There's also quite a good connection with the royal family, isn't there?
Yes, of course, because of the livery connection. So the royal family continue to be patrons of many of the liveries, whether it's to do with the butchers and, all the other tradesmen.
Mm.
And then again, because of central government's policies and things like that, there is a definite linkage with the royal family to support them in any way possible, to do any kind of, state visits or any other kind of things in which they do require support from the City of London.
And of course, St Paul's Cathedral is a popular venue for various functions of state.
Absolutely. And the Bishop of London, Sarah Mullaney, she is very, very active in this sphere because, of course, she's always receiving dignitaries and people from the royal family as the Bishop of London, and also our local, churches, Wren churches, and things like that. That there are so many in the square mile. They also have a royal patronage as well, some of them. So there's always that link that goes on with the city, and that's one of the great things about the City of London, that the accessibility for having royal representation at many of the events or at many of the formal events, I would say, that
Yeah.
goes on.
And it's quite incredible the number of churches within that
Of
square
course,
mile, isn't it?
yeah. And so many were burnt down in 1666,
Yeah,
and there is a urn. No, sorry, there is a kind of gravestone that was, made of stone,
yeah.
that s- has been preserved, but there's nothing around it to indicate that a church once stood there. It's just, it's just on display in the middle of a, forecourt. And you think to yourself, it just shows how in every nook and cranny of the City of London, a church once stood. And I've forgotten the exact number, but I believe it's at least a third of them were never rebuilt because there was no cash.
Yeah.
And a plinth or a plaque, some of them do have a plaque to indicate that there was once a church that stood here. But Sir Christopher Wren, he was very busy, and he was requested to design and to make sure that the churches were built to sustain future fires and things like that. So we're very fortunate to have lovely masterpieces in the Square Mile as well.
The mind boggles as to how jam-packed it must have been at the early part of the Industrial Revolution in terms of people and everything.
I think so. And some of the drawings that we see, like especially in my ward for Billingsgate, which was actually took over as a trading hub from the neighbouring ward because of the bridge,
Yeah.
where the larger ships could not pass through. So then they had to stop at Billingsgate. And then I had learnt somewhere that they had a hub for like coal, oil, like food groups, and then it flourished into a fish market. And that makes you wonder again that the hub of how many people used to be around there,
Mm.
living there as well,
Yeah.
because don't forget, London Bridge in those days actually had houses on the top. So there was, people were actually, not like today,
No.
where there are very, very few residents, but in those days, the residents and the workers were living side by side.
All packed in as per Charles Dickens.
As per Charles Dickens, and it's very true. It is so true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You can imagine it.
Yeah.
Tell me your future aspirations.
I really did think about this because, once being re-elected, you've been
Yeah,
given, a kind of an opportunity to make sure that we have a way to do more. And, those chancers who thought that they could come and take my seat at the election time were kicked to the wayside. So I thought, well, what am I going to do with my new term? Excuse me.
that's
So
all right.
two things that really helped to resonate me was to basically amplify the voice about civic engagement, because as you just saw, voting age now comes down to 16 years of age, in line with Scotland. So I want to make sure that there is better participation for youth involvement in civic matters. So that's one of the things that I'm going to be looking forward to doing. And the second one is about empowering workplaces to help people who maybe are disabled or
Yeah,
visually impaired to be more inclusive about that, because the square mile does need people to come and work. And there is a recent study which mentioned about 75% of visually impaired people are not in the workforce. And that's a startling statistic. And one of the things that I think I'll be working towards is making sure that workplace involvements, keep an eye on
yeah,
in
sure.
the
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
way
yeah, yeah,
on that kind of thing.
yeah. Yeah, well, that's they're all good sentiments, no doubt about that. I'm sorry to have to say we've run out of time. As
Lovely to
ever,
see
it's
you.
been a great pleasure to see you and hopefully meet up later on in the year.
Looking
But
forward to it.
meantime, thanks very much. Really good to see you. Thank
Thanks, you,
you.
Tony, and all the best, and love to Christine. Take
Will
care. Bye
do.
bye.
Thank you. Bye.